All right, I'm now joined by Nando Vila, Wozni, Big Wos Lambre, and Mike the Italian Recine. And we are going to talk today about Season 1, Episode 4, Meadowlands.
Very low effort nickname on Mike, just the Italian.
Yeah, you're better than that.
Yeah.
Well, mine is big.
Yeah. Yeah.
Took forever to come up with that one.
Yeah, no, I forgot to come up with something equally clever for Nando. You know, like the Spaniard.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
The conquistador.
The conquistador. We did mansplaining to the natives in the 1500s, and it was really bad.
That was the main problem.
That was the real crime that no one talks about during colonization.
The conquistadors telling them that, like, well, actually, you know, this is how, you know, Aztec society works.
This is how you grow corn. Yeah, you dumbasses.
Fair enough. Yeah, so this is an awesome episode. I had like you know, when we watched the first two, and, you know, I mean, I'd obviously seen them before multiple times, you know, but it was a long time ago. And in both cases, you know, there was tons of good stuff in it. You know, I thought they were really funny. But the one we did last month, you know, the Denial, Anger, Acceptance was the first one, like, in the rewatch that really blew me away. It's like, oh wow, that was a really that was like a really tightly thematically put together episode. And then I, you know, felt the same way about this one. So, I mean, I think, yeah, those two right in a row, you know, we're both just amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I owe everybody an apology that I said when I said season one was one of the weaker seasons. I mean, just this rewatch. But, I mean, like we've always said on the show, it really is a different show every time you watch it. And that's how I felt. I've seen this episode probably 3 times. And, yeah, completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's not crazy, but it's my favorite component of the episode is the back channeling the politics of it all, right? Like, you know, establishing who the factions are, who you're going to align with, how you guys are going to execute your plan, and, you know, establish a united front. Like, yo, make sure New York still knows it's me, you know, handling stuff, but in order not to start a freaking war with my own uncle, let's let him think all these other things. That's what I definitely enjoyed, the political intrigue of it all.
Yeah, because like the self image of all these people is that they're the boss because they're tougher or because they're more ruthless or whatever. And there's an element to that. Obviously, it's obviously true, but that's what the image is, and that's why, like, someone like a young buck like Chris Moltisanti thinks that's what it is, you know? He's like, does this look like the fucking Senate tea? You know, like, and what the reality is, like, anyone who rises to the top in any organization, be it criminal or otherwise, is at heart a skilled politician, you know? Like, it's really what it is. It's, you know, if you're the CEO of GE, it's not because you're, like, better at fucking making electronics or whatever. It's because you're a skilled politician. And if you're, and that's true of whether you're El Chapo Guzman, you know, at the top of the Sinaloa cartel. Like, he doesn't get there because he's tougher and meaner than anyone else. I mean, although that helps, it's like
there's no shortage of guys in that organization who are just that mean.
Right.
Plenty of guys, and then they stay where they are. You know, they're to pull the trigger. I also just
pretty accurate, I would imagine, the way it's portrayed in The Sopranos, where they do this thing in the later seasons where you just periodically get these guys who are absolutely psychotic, and it serves them well for a little while. But I mean, like, past a certain point, it's just not good for business, and people have to get rid of them. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And then, the other thing that I just struck me about rewatching this episode is, like, it brought me back to, like, middle school, you know, terms like poser, which don't exist anymore. No one says, but, like, man, that was like if anyone ever like accused me of being a poser, I would like I would go home and question all my life choices.
Right.
It's
Or
like
get
in
a
the
fight.
90s when people would be called a sellout. Like the concept of selling out doesn't even exist anymore. It's just what you do. We all sell out. Like it's not like it used to be like, oh, that band sold out. Can you freaking believe that? Can you freaking believe they let Exxon use their song in a commercial? Fucking sellouts, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Now Bruce Springsteen is doing a Jimmy World cover for a Jeep commercial. But it's
what
fine.
was a poser technically though?
To me, it was in Miami growing up. It was in the context of Miami growing up. It's a very, very specific thing, which was if you liked hip hop and rap and you were not black.
Really?
And you were into like dressing like hip hop, FUBU. That was like the very specific thing. Like if you were not black and you were into like hip hop culture, like in any serious way, like this fucking guy's a poser.
Oh man, that's so funny to me because of when you grow up in New York City. One, it's where hip hop was birthed, where it started, specifically in the South Bronx, which there's a lot of Latinx people there, right? Like, so Latinx people, non-blacks, which I'm not even going to get into the politics of, I don't even want to do that right now. But for this specific conversation, like non-blacks have been a part of that. I've been a part of hip hop, rap, dressing the same as anybody else who was hip hop and doing all of that stuff, making the music, being DJs, like all of it, literally from the beginning of it. So that's why that's like hilarious to hear. But Miami's different.
It's different.
Yeah.
Well, also, I think back in the day, I think these days everyone is kind of a music polymath and that it's okay to like several genres. Back in the day, like you liked punk music and then you were punk. If you liked punk music, you could not like heavy metal. Those were different people. They liked heavy metal. They did not like punk, and so on and so forth. Like that your genre, not even like broadly speaking rock versus hip hop, like the subsections within it were very much a badge of identity in a way that it is not today. Like now you're kind of weird if you only like one type of thing. Yeah, you're supposed to like everything. Now that's been replaced by like, I guess, like the types of TV shows you watch or whatever. But it used to be very much like if you wore a Ramones shirt, that very much said something about you. Whereas if you liked something else, you couldn't mix genres. You had to like one thing and that was it. I don't know. It was very dogmatic and the differences were very kind of hotly debated. But yeah, that's like a very much a relic of a different era that the kids these days don't know about when they all like, I listen to Miles Davis, but also like I'll throw in some Drake, and whatever.
The baggy clothes were a fun throwback too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Yeah. Just like the Westport polo shirt, like with gray with like the line, like the weird lines. And yeah, I mean, I definitely had something like that at some point in my life.
Yeah, I mean, there was also, all of the technology stuff. That Melfi's date, she couldn't get in touch with him because he'd been keeping his phone off the hook, and when Meadow shows AJ, like what Dad really does for a living. It is the most
GeoCities
possible website. and she prints it out for him.
That HTML was not hitting, Ben.
Like they had remember those websites had the little counter of how many people had visited the website.
Right.
Like at the bottom.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's like geocities.com /903E47672. And that was like the Mafia website.
I'm biased, but those probably were the best days of the internet where there were like 4 websites.
By far. By far.
There's like stickfiguresuicide.com, whatever, encyclopedia, and then all the serials had a website.
Yeah.
and nobody else used it.
Like I remember goofball.com where you could find all kinds of weird shit, the sense of discovery was amazing. Now we're all desensitized.
Games where you could kill Osama bin Laden.
Yeah. I remember like a Beavis and Butthead spinning game that was like very kind of rudimentary, and you were like Beavis or Butthead, and you were like on top of school, and you were just like spitting on people that were walking by, like kind of Frogger style, and you have to like time it so the loogie would land on someone's head.
Nice.
Yeah, the glory days.
So in an effort to be slightly more professional, I actually took a bunch of detailed notes about the plot instead of just trying to remember it on the fly. So,
Well done.
So at the
You did a good job at that, by the way.
Yeah,
I thought you had the notes.
We got to save enough time for the ending though, because that ending was really
the ending absolutely gotta spend a few minutes unpacking that. But at the beginning, Tony is having this creepy dream sequence where he's at Dr. Melfi's office. There's like almost no talking, and he sees, is it Polly? He sees one of them walking by.
This is Hesh. Yeah, Hesh.
Hesh walking by. And so he's all, this is setting up his paranoia about being people finding out that he's in therapy, or even whether Melfi's trustworthy, which is going to connect to the big paranoia later on in the episode about if he becomes the boss, he's going to become a lightning rod, for everything that's coming down on the organization. And so he, and he goes through, it's like a bunch of figures from his life he encounters when he wanders outside of Melfi's office in the dream, ending, of course, with his mom, which is the other, another big thing in the episode is this, what's called later on in the episode, Melfi is going to talk about strategies for dealing with elder family, but like his tensions with his mom and his uncle, are going to be a big thing throughout the episode. And there's also a little thing running through it about people like regressing and like acting like they're kids, or in their relationships with the with parents, or like because right after the dream sequence where which ends with his him seeing his mom and being freaked out by it, like was it Melfi turns around and it's his mom's face, then right after that Tony gets home and AJ's sitting on the floor playing Mario Kart. And there's a little regression thing, because like Tony immediately just goes down and sits on the floor with them to, to play Mario Kart. And of course, because it's Tony, he cheats.
Yeah.
Well, he somehow beats him in Mario Kart with one hand on an N64 controller. That seems impossible to me.
Never happened, my friend.
Yeah. I don't want to be like a gamer guy, but I played enough N64.
You don't want to be a gamer gamer?
Well, I just don't want to be associated with gamers or anything to do with video games. But I don't think you could win a Mario Kart race with one arm.
What always confused me about Tony's like whole I don't want them to know that I'm seeing a shrink.
Yeah.
I'm like, do they think he's gonna snitch in there? Like he's gonna tell them about his actual business, or is it gonna make him look like, a crazy person, as if like, like as
dude,
if
these people.
I think it's more that one, yeah.
Yeah, it's more that like he just loses credibility as any sort of boss. Like you can't even eat pussy in the mafia. Apparently, like we're looking at fucking therapy.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah. What's the line? It's what was it? It's not. It was gossip and pussy eating that brought us to this situation, or
right.
There's some amazing line like that, but yeah,
it must be like a sign of weakness or something, or ineffectiveness.
Like, what would they be so mad about?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like what is he doing in there?
Yeah, or is it even that they think that he was crazy, or just that it's weak?
Okay,
gotcha. Yeah, it's weak. It's like can you believe the fucking boss? Like. Yeah. Apparently, the boss doesn't even wear shorts.
Right. Wear shorts. Yeah.
Well, there's a guy, Michael Franzese, who was a guy in the Colombo family, and right now, for some reason, he's in every single like BuzzFeed video, or he's always in every documentary and stuff.
I've watched him on a couple of YouTube.
He was on that. He was on that documentary about the 5 families that just came out. That was pretty good.
Yeah, he's in like every documentary. He's in every. But there was some BuzzFeed video where it's like. My boss watches gangster movies, and he's watching Sopranos, and he's like, oh wow, yeah, if a guy was talking to if a guy was talking to the therapist, he'd be in the trunk of a car with the therapist. And he doesn't really say why, but I guess it's like it's a mix of like you can't talk about the business and it's like a sign of weakness.
Right.
But it's crazy that I don't know. These guys don't really, they're not models on how to live your life, I don't think.
What?
I thought they sound pretty cool to me.
Yeah.
They just hang out at a strip club all day, which is that's maybe the funniest scene of the episode is when we'll get to it. That scene in the strip club is so good.
Yeah, no, that is very good. But so let's see. He has Adriana picks up Christopher from the hospital. So the title Meadowlands is taken from it's the end of last episode, right? Christopher was taken out by the Russians that Junior contracted to do the mock execution out by the Meadowlands the same time they actually kill Brendan Filone. And so Adriana is just picking up Christopher from the hospital. He's jumpy and paranoid. Adriana says, I heard you shit your pants, when you were, in the hospital, and which is also going to come back, later. And then they go to try to see Brendan, and they find him dead in the bathtub. As somebody says later, he's been shot like Mo Green in Godfather.
Yeah, right through the eye. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole debate later on about
what the significance,
what the equivalent message back should be. It's like, no, it's got to be through the mouth because he's a snitch, whatever.
There was a mobster in Philly that got killed, and when they found his body, they found $20 bills in his mouth and up his ass to symbolize that he was greedy. Like, I guess the mob is really into messages. But that's right. Very unfortunate for whoever had to kill that guy.
The Godfather, there was a horse's head.
Right. I'm kind of imagining that being like, Polly, maybe even Tony and Christopher, and Tony's like making Christopher stuff the $20 bills in the guy's ass. It's like, come on.
Right. I gotta put $20 bills in the guy's ass again. Christopher, just do what you told.
You're gonna stuff those bills in his ass.
Money up his ass.
You're gonna take those 20s, you're gonna stick them up his ass, and you're gonna do what I say.
I don't think so.
The constant theme on the show is that they're in a conversation with all the gangster art that's come out before it, right?
Yeah.
Like Swims with the Fishes is like, we got a fish wrapped up in a newspaper because that means, whatever his name is, swims with the fishes. It's like, oh, he got one right through the eye, like because he was his eyes were too big or something.
Yeah,
his eyes are too big for his stomach.
Now Tony's telling me I got to go put a clown wig on this guy. I'm making a joke that wasn't appropriate.
So now I'm in Party City trying to find a fucking clown wig, that doesn't have the rainbow thing because that would send a different message, send a message that he's gay, and that's how we killed him.
Get the rainbow.
It has to be a red clown wig because those are the ones who tell the jokes. Yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
So at AJ's school, he gets into a fight in the hallway with Jeremy Piacosta, who let's see, he's he sends. Oh, actually, this is another '90s tech thing that they
great.
He
really owned him.
A message to his pager with something like "Your mother loves me."
Yeah.
and that whole storyline that they're using, I don't know how we're meant to feel about AJ, because one, what's so funny too is that AJ, the kid that's playing him, he sort of regresses as the show goes on as far as his acting skills, because he never stops being this kid. At this point, he's pretty good at being a little bratty shithead kid, right? For how old he is right there. But his emotional growth never surpasses this kid right here. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I'm like, kids got into fights for different reasons all the time at school. You know, it's not like he was going out of his way to bully this kid. It's just, he's just a shit.
The other thing that's changes throughout the show is that AJ just becomes more of a bitch. Like it was very shocking to me to see him like resort to like fighting some kid who's bigger than him, like very clearly bigger than him, and like holding his own. Like as the show progresses, like AJ just becomes like a like I think they were trying to think of, maybe he's like a mini Tony at this point. Then they went.
Yeah,
no way.
When we get to the end of that storyline, because I think some of what happens in this episode might actually explain, why he becomes more of a bitch as the show goes on. Because he can't be like, maybe at first he's trying to be a mini Tony, but then like because he's being raised by the actual Tony, and so everybody's afraid of him. He never actually develops that.
Right.
Yeah.
He could never achieve that because nobody would ever mess with him, right? Like, so he can never prove himself in that specific way because of who his dad is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. Chrissy and Adriana grab Meadow outside of school to ask her about Tony. At this point, Christopher still believes that the reason Brendan was killed and he was almost killed was because he sold Meadow drugs, and she must have told Tony, and she gets really upset about that. And that's where you see another one of these little regression to childhood things, or at least they're playing with that, because at the end Christopher feels bad about upsetting Meadow, so he's like, hey, you want me to go buy you a Happy Meal like when you were a kid?
Yeah, like she's like a senior in high school, like she would never be eating a fucking Happy Meal. But there's also a hilarious line in that whole scene, which is just hilarious because like we talked about last episode, like that, just how stupid these mobsters are, that they didn't even send the right message to Chris. But when Meadow says something like, I hate life, I hate being a soprano, and Chris goes like, hey, don't say you hate life, that's blasphemous.
One of these things they do, like when it's almost like when Tony is in some situation where he just pulls out and repeats and always gets slightly wrong something Melfi told him in therapy. That's Christopher doesn't know what to say, so he just like goes to that well. It's like, oh well, that's blasphemy.
Can't say that.
He's going to take that seriously coming from him, but he just doesn't know what to say, so that's what he finds.
And I like that the show tries to establish that Christopher and Meadow do have a relationship, and it's sort of like he's her adopted brother,
right,
or stepbrother, or what. Like they're more than just cousins. They are basically siblings, right? Like Tony and Carmela are Christopher's parents, for lack of a better situation, right? And they're fighting like brother and sister, like, oh, I did this thing for you and you fucking tattletaled on me to dad and all of this stuff. And she's like, no, that's not what happened. He's actually worried about you, blah, 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 blah. And so I just like that too, because again, it's the show's always trying to explain the weird dynamics of family, right? Like people who you choose to make into your family, like how sometimes you can stray away from people who actually are your family, like between like Junior and Tony. Like they're always playing with these family dynamics, and I love that.
Yeah. Tony always has to remind himself, like, I love that man. He's my uncle. I love him.
Exactly.
I would never say a bad thing about him. I love him. He's my uncle. God forbid I would say a bad thing, but like he actually fucking hates him.
Yeah. Well, just like last episode with Olivia.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Tony Tony's going to see Dr. Melfi, and so it's I think it's the first time you see that, actually maybe the only time I can remember seeing the hallway like leading into her office, but apparently there's a dentist's office there, and so Silvio's coming out of it, so Tony like ducks into this office across the hall to hide from Silvio, so he doesn't see him.
And Silvio's just so funny because like you just hear like, "Thank you so much, Mr. Dante, and don't forget to floss." And he's like, "Thank you." He's like so excited. He's like so happy walking out of the dentist.
Well, you would think he would get killed for going to a dentist because that's kind of like a sign of weakness, you know.
Yeah, gets his some bitch clean his teeth. This fucking guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then Tony goes into the appointment and he's telling, Dr. Melfi that he might have to quit therapy because he's so paranoid about all of this. And then so back at the house, Carmela confronts AJ. Well, not really about the fight, just about the fact that he ruined the shirt. That seems to be what she most cares about. First she's like, what happened? You threw away the shirt? And he says, oh, I got into a fight. And she's, oh, with who? Jeremy P. And, he says Jeremy P. Acosta. He's like, oh, she's like, oh, I thought you were friends. That was a really expensive shirt.
I remember thinking that too. $40 was a lot, for a shirt back then.
Yeah.
100%. And again, like kids are supposed to, or especially boys, are perceived to like, all right, they're gonna get into a couple of fights. That's just what's gonna happen. So I understand there not being an alarm, especially in that type of environment. It's not like they're trying to foster some type of like deeply sensitive, emotionally intelligent young man. It's just like, all right, whatever, you're gonna fight sometimes.
But you gotta pay me back for that shirt.
Exactly. Oh man.
So yeah, he does because he actually is, a kid. So, it's like there's all the regression in childhood stuff, So he actually is a kid and he's acting like a kid. And so he's sort of whining and wheedling and negotiated. And then he agrees that he's going to pay back the shirt. So next time he's at school, he sees Jeremy, and for a minute it almost looks like they're going to make up. But then he's like, you got to pay me back for the shirt. And then they get into a fight again and they're pulled apart. And then Jeremy says, well, I'm going to meet at the pit tomorrow at 3.
Oh, yeah.
Which is,
meet at the pit.
Yeah, a little bit funny.
There's like a bunch of kids like on the chain link fence just like waiting for the fight to go down. That's how all the fights went down.
So accurate, though. That was like the most exciting thing that could happen to you at school was that you found out that there would be a fight after school. And you weren't involved.
Yeah. Someone else had to do it.
Someone else had to do it. Oh, man, that was great.
You're going down to the pit.
All right, let's see. So Tony goes to visit Livia, which is an amazing scene. Scene. Like Nancy Marchand, the way she does this character is so good, and like all of Tony's attempts to do something nice for her, and just this nonstop avalanche of toxicity. Yeah. Like in this scene, it's fantastic because he brings her the macaroons. And for just a second, you start to see her. Macaroons. And
she's like, like he's like, hey, Ferrara's Bakery. Remember those macaroons? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, I brought you some. And like her face, like for a second, like lights up. And then she goes, like, she's like, realizing, oh, I can't give this to him. I can't give him the satisfaction. And he's just like, she's like, they're too sweet for me, And she's like, she just cannot. And Tony rebuffed once again. He never learns.
Yeah, and he keeps trying. They sit down.
Keeps trying. Finds a new. Maybe if I get her this specific pastry from this other specific bakery, maybe she'll just give me like
right. Because even after she rebuffs the macaroons, he's trying to be all earnest. Hey, you should make friends with some of the other ladies here.
Yeah. Dinner and a show in the city. That sounds great. Why don't you go do it? Like go see a Broadway show with your old ladies.
Yeah, and he talks about she's not taking advantage of there being some eligible seniors at the assisted living spot. And you guys are just making me realize that part of me always thought that Tony's mom was just one of those, just really pissed off all the time people, right? But she doesn't treat everybody like that. Like she doesn't treat Junior like that. Like she's definitely, she doesn't have one speed, which makes me understand that everything she's doing is intentional. It's like, I know what to do when I'm around Junior to get him to do the thing that I want him to do. I know what to do when I'm around Tony to get him to do the thing that I want to do, which, to bring back what you guys just said, it's like, Melfi's like, yo, you got to let these people think they're in control. That's how you'll start winning. Like, let them think you're doing exactly the thing that they want you to do. And that's how you'll reduce friction and all of that stuff. But like, she does have this, like, she is very manipulative, and she knows that withholding love from Tony is how she keeps control from him, because he's constantly seeking the approval and the love. It's like the, sort of carrot, not even the carrot and the stick. That's the, or the dangle in the carrot, whatever the analogy that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, no, that seems totally right. And he even kind of calls her bluff. He's like, oh well, look,
I'll just take them with me. I'll take the macaroons with me.
Leave some for the lunatics.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a lady.
Yeah. So then he's out, and Tony's out in the parking lot, and there's this corrupt cop, Vin McCasey.
The dad from Home Alone.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
And he's one of these people, that like Tony obviously makes a lot of his living out of, like stringing along and squeezing, gambling addicts. But he just could not have more contempt for them. Like it's obviously he's gonna, make tons of money for these people, but he's just constantly reminding them of what pieces of shit they are for having gambling addictions. So you get a lot of that in their interaction, but then he's paying off the Detective McCasian to follow around Melfi. It's not totally clear, at least to me, what he thinks like the danger is here exactly, that like she's like really secretly a cop or whatever. Like you'd think he'd be past that, but somehow or another he just wants to be peace of mind. He wants to be reassured that Melfi is what she seems to be, and so he pays the detective to follow her around.
Yeah, no, it just seems to me like regressing to just like what you would do in any other kind of mob situation. If you needed to trust the person, you just have them followed for a few days and know everything about him. But yeah, it's like it's one of those instances where like the sort of worlds collide. The sort of the netherworld collides with the sort of polite suburban world.
It's like it's like Tony's equivalent of looking through someone's Facebook photos when you meet them.
Yeah.
Go back to 2014 and see what they were up to.
Right. Oh, I see you got a little boy toy, huh? Oh, okay. Yeah. You guys made pasta last week. Got it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But and also I always get a kick anytime cops are portrayed as crooked, corrupt. I always enjoy that. You need that counterbalance of propaganda that we get from stuff like Blue Bloods and these other shows. So I always love when they portray cops as like, no, there's cops with gambling problems. There's cops who have been on the mob's payroll. Like, this idea that the cops are just this dignified, group or class of people who would never do anything that was untowards. Of course not. So I always love a good crooked cop portrayal.
Yeah, I mean, I just read a little while ago Henry Hill's book, Wise Guy, that Goodfellas was based on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm going to write something with Bessner about it for Jacobin. But we in that book, he has a line where he's talking about all of the guys that that Pauly, all the cops that he were on his payroll, and he was like, so many. That like so many cops kids were put through, more cops kids were put through college, by
the mob,
and like any scholarship that's ever existed from any like benevolent association or anything like that.
And in this portrayal, right? It's this dude is not like Denzel from Training Day, who's like,
he's a loser.
Slick. Yeah.
He's just a freaking working schmuck. And
Yeah.
he got into some gambling debts, and he's like, all right, what can I do to
You
help?
got 2 alimonies on $40,000 a year as a sergeant.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was thinking about this because I was thinking about something you said, or I think I remember Michael quoting you saying about like there's the boys in blue, and then there are like actual police who are have skills and are investigating crimes. I don't remember what the second category was, and Makazian is supposed to be, I guess, in that second one, he's a detective.
He's supposed to be a detective. Like, he's supposed to really be doing actual police work on a day-to-day, not like eating donuts in his car, just sitting in Times Square. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just different jobs, man. And look, whatever. The type of cops that have to say, like, go on the subway and like wake homeless people up. Yeah, right, get them out of the car or whatever. Like that, that's the type of work that they generally do on a day-to-day, right? And of course, it gets serious when they have to respond to a domestic disturbance and there's some violence in the home or whatever. But like generally speaking, man, these jobs are menial as fuck.
Yeah,
and that dude is supposed to be doing, like straight up, like big robberies for hundreds of thousands of dollars, or some kid got beat up really badly and he's in the hospital. Like, those are real crimes,
Yeah, I mean, when he is trailing Melfi and his partner is there, he's like, why the hell are we following these people? They're fine. They're obviously
right.
People. And so he has to make something up, like, oh, this car was involved, like fits the description of a car for speeding away from a triple homicide on Long Island.
Right, like, because these cops wouldn't be the cops that say broke up the little party that me and not even a party, if you can call it that. We bought 40 ounces of Old English and drank outside of the house of my friend's house on his block, right? At 11 p.m. We were drinking beers on my friend's block, and the cops pulled around, and, they gave us a hard time and made me rap Jay-Z lyrics to them. And
what?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
That happened. You want to? Oh, okay. So they line us up, right? And they're just collecting. They're collecting everything.
What race were the cops?
They were black and white. It was both black and white. Like, that's another thing. Like, I always feel better about my interaction before it's about to happen if it's a black cop, for sure. But there's no shortage of asshole black cops. Like, that's not a
I've
thing.
seen Don't Be a Menace. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they get there, they line us up. We're sitting on the hood of our friends' cars. And it's like 2 cars, and some people scattered in random. Me, I just said, whatever, got caught. They line us up. They search the cars. They find counterfeit DVDs, like movie DVDs, like bootlegs, break them up, like snap them and say, this is contraband, right? Blah, 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 blah. Snap them and throw them.
Hey, Marvel paid good money for this IP.
Yeah, exactly.
You actually really be seeing Trek in the theaters. You're taking exactly.
They snapped up the DVDs. And of course, as they're lining us up,
which is hilarious, because I mean, like, that really is like, that's like cartoonishly gangsterish behavior. Like, it's like, oh, hey, this is Marvel's racket. You can't do this.
Right. Just like, okay, we're ripping off the $1 billion movie industry. Sure, buddy. And so as we're lined up, I muttered something under my breath, like, because I could tell, like, they didn't want to really jam us up. They just felt like fucking with us. Yeah. And I mumbled something under my breath, and the cop said, "What'd you say?" I was like, "Nothing, man. I was just singing a song. That's all. Just singing a song." He said, "What song?" I said, "Jay-Z." He said, "No." He said, "What artist?" I said, "Jay-Z." He said, "What song?" I said, "Hard Knock Life." And he said, "Really? Sing it for me." "No, I want to hear you sing it. Go ahead, sing it." And I literally started rapping the lyrics to Hard Knock Life to this cop, and him and his partner fucking lapped it up, and they absolutely loved it. But you can't tell me that's police work.
Yeah, right.
No,
like, whatever. The interaction ended up being fine. All we did was lose DVDs and have to go home, and didn't get to finish our 40s that we paid $1.50 for. But Yeah, that's NYPD. That's normal. That is just regular NYPD, just nonsense.
Yeah, I gotta feel good. Go home. What did you do today?
Right.
You know,
Right.
I smashed some DVDs and,
Right.
and made this guy rap JP for me.
Right. Yep.
Jesus Christ. All right. Let's see. Tony and the guys are at Jackie's hospital bed. Jackie's clearly dying, babbling about there's a fish in his pocket, he says at one point. He says something about being at the World Trade Center. And it's a heavy moment. You know, Tony's like sitting there, like he's like, oh, what kind of God? And then Christopher comes in, and this is something you see a couple times in the episode. It's just like some while everybody else is, you know, feeling serious feelings about Jackie, Christopher comes in like ranting about whatever's going on with him. And he tells them what's happened, and he wants to go take revenge, since Mikey Palomisi does Junior's hits, so he's gonna just go kill him himself. And Tony stops him. It's like, obviously you can't do that. Mikey's a bad guy. What are you doing? And then, but it's like that scene in The Departed when the guy explains at the bar, like, you can't, like, you there are guys you can hit, there are guys you can't hit. This is the guy you can't hit. But then he hits him himself just to make the point, you know, like, this is, you know, like, I can do this, you know. And so it's kind of the same thing that Tony goes out and after telling Christopher that he's not allowed to touch Mikey, you know, he goes out and beats the shit out of Mikey and, like, he staples a parking ticket to him.
Yeah, he just uses the staple gun all over his GQ Armani suit.
And then he goes into the diner where Junior holds court. It's Junior, you know, telling like the most old man mafia joke ever. You know, you hear the one about the Chinese Godfather gave them an offer they couldn't understand, and so Tony goes in there. He tries to like he's chewing Junior out for having had this really extreme reaction. Junior's having none of it. He says, look, I've been sitting here like patience on a mountain waiting for discipline to be handed down, you know, against Christopher and Brendan. You didn't do it, so I'd take matters in my own hands. And it goes so badly that at the end of the scene, Junior tells him that if you ever come back in here, back in the diner, you need to come in heavy.
Well, he also asked him to have Christopher be a part of his crew.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, he's like, I want Christopher. He's a good earner, huh? Yeah, he's like, well, I want him. And Tony's like, are you insane? Like, no way.
and Junior's like, it's straight. It's funny because everybody always feels a need to sort of escalate things, right? And finally, obviously, Tony says de-escalation, but Junior is like, look, I'm the freaking aggrieved party here. Your little knuckleheaded nephew ripped off one of my trucks, then him and his freaking crackhead friend ripped it off again. So Junior's getting like a sort of satisfaction from his escalation, like, yeah, you like what I did there? Your nephew's an earner telling me works for me. Like, he is so happy to be escalating it because he truly does feel like the aggrieved party. And you know, I think that says something about us as humans for real. Like, when we do get into fights with the people around us, a lot of times our instinct isn't to just be like, look, you fucking wronged me twice, but like, we need to get past this. A lot of times it's just like, you know what?
It's a go ahead. Yeah.
I'm getting you back.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're always really good at portraying Junior's crew and the people around him as being very like old and antiquated. Junior always seems to be surrounded by older guys and people who seem incompetent. And I think that's kind of interesting. You always sort of just get that feeling from the people that surround Junior.
Yeah. It feels like the whole thing, you know, we're seeing everybody in this show the way that Tony would see them. So like even Dr. Melfi, like, even her speech patterns seem like a little bit unrealistic and like just how like stilted and, you know, they are. But again, that's how he would see somebody like Melfi. And yeah, Junior and everybody around him seem totally incompetent and old and decaying because that's how that's how Tony sees them, right? You know, that's why he thinks, you know, well, you know, that's why he thinks that Junior can't really be in charge at the end. All right, let's see. So Makazian and his partner trailing Melfi in the car. Melfi and her date are talking about how basically
this incredible scene too. Like it's just the tonal shift into like bourgeois like conversation is just perfect. Like the you know, they're talking about like their love life and she's like, you know, it's like, yeah, you know, she's like, we modern women like want our men to get in touch with their feelings, and she drops like some incredibly like 90s reference, like you know, like you know, like they become promise keepers, and when really, you know, sometimes we just want them to like you know, pull our hair and bend us over backwards and fucking fuck the shit out of us, you know, yeah, it's just an incredibly like bourgeois turn of the century conversation is perfect.
Yeah. There's other like that whole rant, like she references like 3 things that probably all haven't existed since the 90s. You know, it's the and something about going into the woods with beating drums. And, you know, I don't know exactly what that even is. But, but basically, the gist of it, which is important, is that she wants a man who's, you know, sensitive, but, you know, not too much of a cuck, right? Like that's
exactly, which is what this show is about ultimately, right? I mean, it's like a crisis of American masculinity, right? Is what the show has always been about. Every single episode is about that. It's like, you know, what happened to the strong silent type? What happened to Gary Cooper? You know, like all these kind of modern bourgeois things, kind of, which were supposed to help us. Yeah, he was gay, Gary Cooper. Yeah, they're like all these things were supposed to like progress us as men, get us more in touch with our feelings, blah 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 blah. Prozac therapy, all that good stuff. But we also lost something, and that's
which you see as this plot line goes on. So Makazian pulls them over. He ends up beating up the date and telling Melfi, you've got, because he assumes that Melfi is Tony's Guma, got prime rib at home, and here you are eating hamburger.
It's funny that because he asked Tony, like, what's the deal? Like, why do you want me to follow this chick? And Tony doesn't tell him, you know, because he doesn't feel like he never needs to, like, when Chris, like, he could have told Chris, like, I'll take care of Mikey, like, but he doesn't want to give him that. Like, he doesn't want to have to explain himself, you know? Like, he could have just told Chris, like, don't worry, I'm going to kick Mikey Palmisi's ass. I'm going to fucking staple his suit to his chest. I'm not going to not do anything. You know, I just don't want you to do it because it's stupid. You're too low on the organization, it would create a problem. Like, he just doesn't feel the need to tell the people below him. He doesn't need to justify anything to them, and it gets him into problems all the time. Like in this case, like he could just explain to the guy, like, no, I'm not fucking her. It's not about that. Don't worry.
Right. What I love is when he finds out finally, because Melfi's having a convo with him about what happened, and the wheels are spinning, and it's just like, Tony, you realize, like, you sent an idiot to do this job. Like, do you understand that? Yeah. And you send an idiot without like detailed instructions. Like, with certain people, you don't need to be you don't have to give them this detailed explanation because they're not incompetent. They can figure it out.
He thought he was doing him a favor.
Right.
He thought he was going the extra mile, you know? Like he was like, I want to get the extra credit.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah. So the next day, Makazian meets Tony to reassure him that Melfi is just a boring normie. And this comes back. He says, "Oh yeah, she's seeing this guy. There's not much in the balls department. He didn't."
Yeah, he thinks like and Tony like doesn't even react to it. He's like, "What?"
Who could have killed him? I beat him up in the middle of the street. So I was like, kind of pathetic.
He's like, he offers up the Victoria's Secret shots of Dr. Melfi.
Yeah. If you want to see those, I'm like, wow. And Tony was like, yeah, did you bring lotion or something like that? But this dude is a complete fucking idiot. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and then there's like the funny, I mean, like how Tony like just despises these like degenerate gamblers because the guy's like, instead of just being like encouraging his gambling habit, being like, because the guy's like, hey, what do you think about the game on Friday night? You know, I got 3 large on Rutgers. Yeah, and Tony, instead of just, so it'd be like, yeah, it's gonna be a great game. Like you should bet more. You know, like he's like, yeah, you know, he hates he despises the degenerate gamblers. Like he can't stand them. It's just a hilarious little personality quirk.
See, Tony eats lobster in the back room of the Bing with the other captains. They, you know, so there's like the strip club music going on in the background, and they're having this conversation. It's like the most mafia movie-ish, you know, thing.
Yeah.
The whole episode, they're having this conversation about who should take over, and
well, the difference is that like it is more, you know, in the mafia movie from the days of yore, they'd be competing to see who was boss, and this one they're competing to not be the boss. They're like, it can't be me, no. You know, like, it's like probably the reality. These guys are just pretty much happy being where they are, instead of like in the mafia movies of the days of yore, they'd be like, no, it's, you know, like they're competing to see
each other to take the top spot, but here. They're like all trying to come up with excuses not to be the one who has the bullseye on their head, you know, for being in the top job and being targeted by the FBI and all of this stuff. Back at the but basically everybody but Tony wants to be Tony. Like that's the upshot of the conversation. Back at school.
Sorry, there is a line in that scene though where they're all eating dinner and Jimmy Altieri says something about like. He goes, what, you think we're going to go to war? And I mean, spoiler alert, but we do find out later in the series that Altieri
he's a snitch.
He's a snitch. So I wonder if that they intended for him to be like wearing a wire in that scene because it's very like.
I think if you watch it, he is doing so much. Yeah. He is doing so much. He's always talking about explicitly talking about illicit activities. Almost every single time he speaks, he's talking about doing something illegal. I think they are setting it up like, yo, this dude's a snitch.
Yeah.
So that when you go back and watch it, like, look at this dude.
That's pretty far in advance.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But he's also maybe the worst actor on the show, too.
Yeah, that might.
Him and the guy who played Gigi, I think, are two of the worst actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tony is at this like outdoor like garden store, and he's trying to get the guy
being suburban as hell. Yeah,
right.
To sell him DDT.
Scarface from Half Baked, like just playing. Like, I'm sorry, sir, I just work here. I don't like. You know?
And so that's meant to be that kid's dad, right?
Yeah, that's Jimmy.
The fat guy, yeah.
Right. And Tony doesn't know that the two kids actually are fighting at school, but the dad does.
Yeah, the dad thinks that Tony knows because he's like picking up this like gardening equipment and stuff. So Tony's holding an axe. And
so he's scared. Yeah.
That's the funny thing in the show too. Nothing's ever really like explicit. You know,
right? Like, it's great dramatic irony. You know, like it's just Tony just has no idea what the fuck. You know, the effect that he has. Like it's because he wants to be like in a way he wants to be like a normal suburban guy and like hey, we do some hot dogs with the kids and a thing. You know, like but yeah, you can't have it both ways. You know, like you're just gonna terrify everyone in the normal world. They all know what you do.
Exactly. At home, Tony has a 30-second panic attack. Carmela helps him, but then while Carmela's helping him, he makes the mistake of saying he might quit therapy, and Carmela basically says, "You know, quit therapy."
I'll leave you.
Yeah. See, at therapy, Tony and Melfi talk about how Livia and June are testing him. She recommends a book with strategies on dealing with elder family, which is I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say this on here, but I was watching it and my wife heard in the other room. She was like, "Is that a real book? Can we get that?"
Is it a real book? No, it's not.
Elder Care. It just says Elder Care very big when he's reading it.
That he's reading that at a strip club is
so good.
Yes. pants. Like later on,
This whole scene, the whole scene at the back at the bada bing is just classic Sopranos on every level, like the dramatic irony, like not characters not knowing what the fuck's going on, and then just like the comedic timing at the button is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, so before that, in between, Christopher's going to collect on one of his corners.
Oh yeah.
And the guy is like playing with a yo-yo and saying, "Oh yeah, sorry, Junior's guys came to collect. They sent their corner now. By the way, did you shit your pants? I heard you shit your pants." And so, very unsurprisingly, that guy's beaten up, and Tony and Christopher like wraps the yo-yo string around his neck, and and freaks out about it. And he's the whole episode he's overcompensating because his neck's in a brace, and everybody heard that he shit his pants at the hospital, and so he has even more to prove than he usually does.
And Christopher, I get that he's a mobster, but like the idea that dude is running around beating people up, like bare knuckle beating people up, like it's it speaks to the Sopranos. They always like to go with the absurd. You know what I'm saying? Like they prefer, like, obviously James Gandolfini is a big, imposing dude. Yeah, you could believe he's beating dudes up.
Right.
Christopher, no.
Yeah. Is it that they feel the impunity of like having the mob like backing him? That like it's like no one's gonna touch him. He's got like no one's gonna really fight back. Like the black dude on the corner like doesn't have the same level. Like if he touches a hair on Christopher's head, like is it that kind of thing that they just have more firepower?
The reason that Melfi's Dane isn't going to
beat up a cop, right? Got you.
Yeah, so that could be. I don't know. I mean, I do agree. Like the idea that Christopher, like if it's not that, then I'm with Woz. I think it's like a little unrealistic, but who knows?
It's funny though.
Yeah. So all this sets up that amazing scene at the strip club. Tony is sitting there reading Elder Care while he's sipping a scotch on the rocks. He's like in his bar at the strip club. And then they say on TV that Jackie has just died. The music stops. One of the strippers like crosses herself and says like she'll never forget where she was on this day.
That's just honestly like it's like unwoke obviously, but like that and it would never happen today, but it's just a hilarious, like it really is just like a hilarious moment. The stripper just like they like stop dancing and they're like on stage and she's like, "Oh my god, I'll never forget where I was in this very moment," and she's like on stage at fucking strip club.
Everybody's gathering
but
around.
also obviously all the strippers know they work at a mob establishment, right? And they know, and of course, obviously he's probably been to that club plenty of times, but like these guys are local celebrities where they live, so I get it. Like they are celebs in their little neighborhood.
I did wonder about it a little bit earlier, like when they're having that scene where they're eating lobster because they're laughing and joking about Mikey Palomisi, getting beaten up and stapled, like while the waitress is standing right there, and it's like I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe that's mild enough that it's not a big deal. You can say that in front of anybody, but like it's like I don't know. You're not going to wait till she leaves, to talk about the violent crimes.
Yeah.
Now, but again, like that kind of stuff, especially when you consider like locally, everybody knows not to fuck with them. Like everybody knows. It's one of those things where when you're not from there, somebody would have to nudge you and be like, "Yo, chill. That's such and such. Like that guy's a sociopath. Blah 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 blah." Like their reputations are very well known and earned, and so it wouldn't surprise me that they would be reckless with a waitress, and that a stripper would see them as the most powerful, popular people in her neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. So guys are all gathered around to have a solemn drink in honor of their dead friend. And Christopher storms in, not knowing what's going on. He says, like, have you guys heard? And that's not even what he's talking about. And he's ranting and raving about how Junior was collecting from his corner. And and this is, I think, I mean, you've gotten a few of these so far, but like I think probably the most pissed that Tony has gotten at Christopher, like in the show so far. Like he, he's like right on the edge of disconnecting his neck all over again, and he's like, "You're lucky, that somebody I love just died." Again, he storms off to, well, it seems like he's going to. It seems like he's gonna storm off to like confront Junior, or exact some kind of retribution, and in a way he does. But what he does is, this is his big solution. This is what he learned from the elder care thing, or really what Melfi told him at the office earlier, that sometimes it's important for these elder relatives to maintain the illusion of control. And this is really like nasty, because we've spent this whole episode establishing how afraid he is of being the lightning rod at the top of the organization. But Junior actually wants it. So it's like, all right, I'll let you be boss, but you have to give me Bloomfield. You got to give me the paving union. Like that's my asking price. For you getting to be the boss. And then of course Junior's just thrilled by it.
He is so fucking happy.
Yeah,
he
basically gives him
freaking happy.
Everything.
He is like the smile on his face and the embrace that him and Tony share. He is so satisfied with himself and so proud of Tony for stepping out of the way and letting Junior do what he wanted to. Like, they do a perfect job of it. Like, this dude is over the moon about this job promotion that he's allegedly getting.
Right, exactly.
I was laughing at myself, like thinking that now that Tony Soprano is a labor leader, he'd get like an interview on Jacobin.
New Jersey union leader, Anthony Soprano.
It's all about the working class. None of this PFC shit.
Hey, I gotta say, I don't know if that was a good idea talking to Connor Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, he like extracts like 2 no-show jobs from Jacobin. He's like,
I want my nephew Christopher to work as an editor for Jacobin. You can run the social medias.
Yeah, Big Pussy is listed as a contributor. Never actually writes anything.
Yeah.
What do you do? Just write about socialism all day? This is freaking boring. I'm just saying. The new editor.
Or actually, what it would be is there's some like there's somebody like me who is like under his thumb writing articles to go out under his name at Jacobin, hey, come on, it's time for his article.
I got a deadline in 2 days, Ben. You better hand it in. Bosker's up my ass.
He's just got Connor Fitzpatrick in a tool shed somewhere. Shut the fuck up. I'll give you a job back if you shut the fuck up.
Oh man!
All right,
Jacobin should reach out to like a mobbed up labor leader and give him an interview. I think that would be good. Maybe some good content.
I love that. Just like 2/3 way through the interview starts. Wait a second.
We're going to run for state assembly on the DSA ballot.
We're going to take control.
Oh my!
Julia Salazar. We can get her on the take.
Oh man!
Jesus Christ! I just got an email. The fucking Dems. The email spamming is insane. And it's just every time you unsubscribe from one, a new group starts spamming you because you fucking gave the Dems money one time. But this email just said patriotic Democrats across the country are begging with Mitt Romney to vote to convict Trump.
Yeah, no, I know that's my top thing. Like that's what I care most about. So Mitt Romney votes to convict.
I was going to today. If you were part of that insurrection, you must have had so much fun. Like you get to see Trump talk, and then you get to storm the Capitol. Like imagine going to a Bernie rally, and he's like, "And we're gonna go in, and we're gonna go in and go into his office."
No, in the Bernie room, I would have been one of those idiots like streaming from Nancy Pelosi's office.
Yeah.
Yeah, how come when the Dreamers do it, it's civil disobedience? When they occupy Obama for America office, it's civil disobedience.
Man.
This is my Tim Pool. This is my Tim Pool hat. This is how I make millions of dollars on YouTube. It's like, awesome. Back in 2013, the Dreamers, they occupied Obama for America offices. How come when the Trump supporters occupy the Capitol, it's not considered insurrection?
Craziness.
There you go. All right, so AJ goes into Meadows' room. It's like this very like suburban happy family thing. She makes him, take off his shoes, on his way into the room. So the rules. And then he tells.
Isn't he wearing a Marilyn Manson shirt? Very timely.
Then right.
Cancel.
It's the most problematic thing in this episode.
Yeah, it really is.
So he says it's really confusing because I met Jeremy at the pit, and I thought we were going to fight, and then he just gave me the money, and I said he was a chicken, he didn't want to fight me, and everybody just started laughing at me, like, what's going on here, big sis? What am I missing? And she's like, yeah, what do you think Dad does for a living? It's like, what? Waste management. A lot of other garbage men who live in houses like this? Uncle Jack.
Uncle Jackie, that's hilarious. Uncle Jackie.
Fire up GeoCities, and why don't you learn a thing or two, kid?
Yeah. She shows him the GeoCities page with like the background music and the bullets and all that stuff, and she prints it out for him, and then you see him later like looking through the printout, sort of somberly and going to sleep. But meanwhile, Milfy finds her date at home, and he's been keeping his phone off the hook. She wants to go out, but he's too scared to go out. And, basically the long, the short of it goes back to their conversation in the car that, she might want a man who's sensitive to her feelings, but this guy is too weak.
He's fully cucked. Yeah, he's fully cucked. Yeah.
See, back at therapy, Tony is trying to tell Dr. Melfi about the first dead body he ever saw when he was a teenager, and she's all zoned out, because she's still thinking about her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, whatever, guy she was dating. And she tells him about the police brutality incident. Yeah, like Woz was saying earlier, it's fucking moron, right? Like, like this is a surprise to him that having given him inadequate information just set this guy loose of the world, that he's fucked it up. And then in the amazing last scene at Jackie's funeral, we see, Tony and the captains are talking and they talk about what the details are of the arrangement, that actually Tony's going to be making every single decision behind the scenes. Junior's not going to have any real power. They're not even going to have to kick up as much money to him as they would have to if he were the boss for real, since, he doesn't know what they were kicking up to Jackie. And Tony got, Bloomfield and the Pavers Union out of it, the no-show job at Jacobin. And then you see the FBI taking pictures. This is so brutal, right? So you sit there taking pictures. AJ and Meadow exchange a look. He's like, see, right? And this is like where, even in this scene, Tony does protest a little bit. It's like, hey, I don't want you to say anything bad about Junior. I love Junior. I'm his favorite nephew. But like this is how you get like what a brutal thing this was, that like, you know, his de-escalation was actually like the nastiest thing he could have done to Junior. Like the FBI's taking pictures and Tony's looking out there. He's like, yeah, I hope they get Junior's good side.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. He basically.
But you would
Well,
think they
you
would
know,
alter
again,
him.
at the same time, man, like I said, like Junior was so happy to be doing this.
Yeah.
And it speaks to his own greed and avarice and naked ambition. Like, this is exactly what you wanted. Just, you know, obviously, because you got to figure, even if Tony let him have it, let him be the guy that actually calls the shots. Like, Junior would have went to jail for this shit. Period. No matter what. Even if you got what you wanted out of it, you're going to prison for this. So it's like, but again, it's what he wanted. He just wanted to be able to tell everybody what to do. I earned it. I've changed this fucking guy's diapers. Fuck him. I played baseball with him. Fuck him. I earned this shit. Fuck that kid. He absolutely should be, being deferential to me, since I did all of this stuff for him and I put in the work and I put in the time. So I'm kind of just like, look, Junior, you you were too happy. That smile was too big when he got the news from Tony.
I actually got emotional watching that end because, and I think during a rewatch, it's so much more sad because if you've made it through the whole series, you know what AJ becomes, and this was kind of like the beginning of his distrust towards his parents, and it's him finding out, it's him knowing that he's being lied to, and that little kind of like half smile he does at the end is really kind of heartbreaking because you're watching a kid be, like just let him manipulate. It's totally, complete, loss of innocence.
Yeah, and Tony winks at him. He gives him like a
yeah. And before that, he's pretty innocent. I mean, he's getting in fights and blowing up frogs with firecrackers, but he's just like a little pudgy, Italian kid who's just good. Thinks his dad is a garbage man.
And he thinks his dad, he went on a fishing trip with his dad, and his dad holding up a dead fish was just like, father-son shit. Now he looks at the dead fish and he's like, maybe it's symbolism. Yeah.
Having to share a hotel room with his father and his mistress.
What's that?
Having to share a hotel room with his father and his mistress because, she's sick or something.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe this is too much of a stretch. Was there something going on with the fish thing? Because he looks at his dad with the holding up the fish. Jackie, and while he's babbling on his deathbed, says something about there's a fish in his spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's like the Godfather kind of theme throughout is been there. I mean, Big Pussy says it explicitly. He's like, in one, they chew more green through the eye or whatever. I like and then like even this
talking about Godfather that he just says one.
Yeah. And then at the end, I mean, the funeral scene for Jackie Aprile is a mirror of the baptism scene in at the end of Godfather 1, in which Tony really becomes the Don, right? Like that's when he becomes the boss. It's like the same, it's just a twist on it in that it's Junior technically, but Tony in reality. And you see them; they all come up to Tony. They give him the handshake the way you shake a boss's hand. They give him the kiss on the cheek, and he's there like kind of holding court at the same time that Junior is. It's the whole sleeping with the fishes. It's all kind of sprinkled throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all, again, this is such a tightly put together episode. Like the way that they have, like the very first scene, the dream sequence is all about, Tony feeling exposed and paranoid. And one of the things during the episode he feels most exposed and paranoid about is the idea basically of having to be the official boss. And then at the end, he's both given Junior exactly what he wants. And of course, Junior could not be more thrilled by it. But, he's also found a way to avoid that and to put the bullseye on Junior. All the stuff about parents and children and, regressing and who's the real parent, who's the real child, all that stuff throughout the episode. And that's all coming to bear at the end, both with Junior thinking, that he's, he's the head of the family. When he's really, kind of in a way being treated as a child, he's getting to, it's almost like he's playing dress up. It's like the fireman, giving you the, little kid, the badge. It's like, oh, you helped put out the fire. Here's your little mini fire helmet.
Junior just wants someone to laugh at his bad jokes, and
Yes.
it's really all he cares about. And as long as, like, when he's the boss, everyone has to laugh at his jokes, while he's holding court in whatever, like, Italian corner deli.
Later in the show, Tony's all self-conscious because he gets, like, he finally picks up on the fact that everybody laughs at every joke he tells because he's the boss.
Right.
Oh man.
Awesome. Final thoughts?
The next episode is when he kills the guy on Meadows' college trip, right?
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
Standalone.
So that'll be dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward.
I mean, I guess my final thought is, like, whatever it is you do in life, don't be a poser. Like, just do everything possible to not be a poser or a fart knocker.
Wear skater clothes. Be a skater.
Yeah, if you're wearing if you like airwalks or Vans, you gotta learn. You gotta know how to skate a little bit.
You gotta learn how to do an ollie or a kick flip.
Yeah. You can't. If not, you cannot wear the airwalks or Vans. Yeah.
Were airwalks skating shoes? I thought they were like walking shoes.
No, they were skating shoes.
I think as a fat kid, my mom told me they were walking shoes. I felt better about wearing.
Yeah, no, they were definitely skating shoes because I had a phase.
I might get myself a pair of airwalks.
Yeah.
That's my final thought. That's where I'm leaving it.
All right, fair enough. Well, gonna do college in March. Looking forward to that. Anybody have anything they want to, like, plug or anything like that before we go?
Follow me on Twitter, Big Wos, BIGWOS. And look out for all the stuff we do with The Athletic, and obviously subscribe on YouTube. I mean, on YouTube. Well, you can on YouTube, actually. On YouTube, wherever you get podcasts, and subscribe to Woke Bros, which me and Nando do every single week, comes out every single Thursday.
Yeah, we do the Wokest show on Left Podcasting, me and Waz. Also, weekends on Jacobin with Anna Kasparian, where we do all the, we break down all the news of the week.
Yeah. No, it's been a tear lately. You had, like, Chomsky, Jeremy Corbyn, like, that's
yeah.
Chomsky,
Corbyn, Zizek, Richard Wolff, all the big boys.
Nice.
Yeah, no chicks allowed except for Anna.
He's stupid.
Oh, that's gonna get clipped. All right, Mike,
Yeah, just I have a podcast, The Sit Down, and you can follow me on Twitter at Mike Recine and Recine Mike on Instagram.
Ooh.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, later, y'all.
Later.